Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new 2025 Collect Day release, and this time we've got our only ceratopsian for the year. And what's really cool about this one is it's actually a species of ceratopsian, as per usual, I didn't have previously. So again, Collect Day has hammered out some incredible species this year, all across the board. I think up until this point, the only figure that they've released that I have other figures of, or the only species they've released that I have other figures of, would be the Gallimimus, and that's pretty crazy, honestly, if you think about it. So this time we've got the Furcatoceratops, and this looks really, really nicely done, and overall is another of their Age of Dinosaurs figures, I think, is like the smaller size range that they have, and that's what we have going on with this figure. So it is a good bit on the smaller side when it comes to your Collect Day figures that we've seen this year. It's absolutely the smallest overall of all of the figures they've released this year. So of course we're going to go ahead and zoom out here, get a little bit of a closer look. So starting up here in the head sculpt, we can see the fine detail looks really, really impressive, and considering the size of the head, there's a lot of variation of color here in the head sculpt of this one. You can see all different shades of browns, as well as even some hints of greens throughout the course of the face, and on top of that there is a dark wash present on the figure, which definitely helps to add realism overall. We can see the beak is sculpted pretty nicely. It's also painted with a light kind of a tan tone, pretty much the same tone that we see for the horns, and the horns as well look good. You can see kind of like cracks and crevices within the horns, and I love that they have that same tan sort of color, but they transition pretty smoothly to a dark tone as you lead out there toward the tips of the horns. We can see the eyes are painted with that classic black coloration that we usually see for Collect Day dinosaurs, and that also has a nice gloss coat. And the, small horns and stuff that move around the frill also all have that tone of color. As you move up here, you actually have a little bit of like a reddish brown up in the frill, as well as rows of scoots that basically follow along the outer sides of the frill, and then kind of looks like maybe we have a little bit of that going down the center as well. But that looks very nice as a whole. You can see the head sculpt and everything from this side as well. Quite a bit of variation again of color here in the face. From a distance it almost looks like it's just like a brownish tone, but it's not until you get nice and close and you can really take in all of the difference in color that this one has to offer. We can also see the nostrils sculpted right there. The dinosaur is sculpted with its mouth in an open position, and although it's very small so it's hard to get in there, we can see the tongue. Again, if my camera focuses, we can anyway. Oh boy, really doesn't want to. There you can see the tongue painted with a pinkish tone. I don't think there's really anything else going on as far as color on the inside of the mouth besides the tongue. As we move back into the body, we can clearly see that this ceratopsian is in the process of walking, maybe even running actually. It might actually be in the process of some sort of a confrontation, because the positioning of the legs just kind of give me the feeling that this one has at least a little bit of speed going. Maybe not quite in a long stride, but maybe slightly jogging at the very least. But we can see some tensing in the neck as you move back. We also can take note to the fact that the skin texture looks quite nice, and as we move back, the scale detail is fairly fine as a whole through the course of the body, but we do have osteoderms basically sprinkled throughout the course of the body. You'll see them here and there as you move along. We've got a darker green kind of following through, but with lighter greens showing up as you move through. Darker green basically up here above the top on, along the spinal column of the dinosaur, and even moving down into the thigh. But you do see lighter shades of greens as well as browns, and then a darker brown here in the stomach region. So quite a bit of variation of color again, even as you move through the rest of the body. Leading down here through the front leg, we can see the same style of skin texture. We've also got the elbow right there, and we can see how the dinosaur again is walking along as this foot is currently picking up off of the ground. You can basically see the toes leaving the ground right there. We do have the nails painted with that light sort of tan coloration. Moving back here, we see the skin scrunching because both legs are pushing together, really bunching the skin up, again showing the movement of the dinosaur. We can't really take notice to the hip bone too well, but we see it a little bit as we lead back, protruding through the skin, but not obviously enough where you can look at this and say it's shrink-wrapped by any means. We definitely have some nice muscle definition showing there in the thigh, and then as well as the calf moving down. We also have the knee in the front of the leg, and again the positioning of this foot obviously shows the movement of the dinosaur quite nicely as the toes are basically planting down onto the ground as this one's moving along. And then we lead out into the tail, and again we have the nice mixtures of colors as we have lighter and darker shades of browns as well as different shades of greens, with a nice curve to the tail as you lead out, which you can see the tail is basically straight out, but it obviously curves down, back up a little bit, and then back down. Moving along the underside, we do have a lighter tone following down here, a little bit of a different style to the skin texture and scale detail down here for the underbelly of the dinosaur, and we can see the cloaca sculpted out and highlighted with a darker tone. Obviously, once we turn it around, the biggest difference over here is going to be the positioning of the legs, because as a whole, the body is primarily straightforward. We can really see the head straight forward, the tail straight out. So the biggest difference here as far as the sculpting goes would be the positioning of the legs. And obviously this foot is about to land, this foot is about to pick up off of the ground, showing you again that this dinosaur is moving quite fast, I would say. We can make out the shoulder blade as well protruding through the skin over here, and the skin kind of stretching off of the stomach, again with the movement of that front leg. And again, the same type of coloration that we had with all the different shades of greens and browns and stuff on this side as well. So it's actually a really nice figure. I would absolutely say it's one of the best figures of the year from Collecta, but as a whole, this entire line has been very strong this year, so it's not a surprise that this one would also be awesome. As far as a size goes, though, as I already mentioned, it's pretty small. So for a length, about 4¼ inches or around 11 centimeters, and then for a height, a little over 1.5 inches or just a hair over 4 centimeters. For a size comparison, here is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collecta human being next to our Furcatoceratops, and you can see that it's very small. Definitely one of the smallest, honestly, not just of this year, but one of the smallest Collecta figures I now have. For more evidence of that, here we have the Mercuryceratops, which I've actually been using for quite a few comparisons this time around, and we can see that is actually quite a bit larger than our Furcatoceratops. And to really show you, again, the small size of this one, even though this is a repainted version that I had repainted years ago, here is the Collecta Regaloceratops, which is one of the smallest figures I think Collecta had out previously, showing you that even that one is just a little bit bigger than our Furcatoceratops. Then further helping to put into perspective the smaller size of this one, we have a Mattel and Toy Monster International minifigure here, which we can see that the Furcatoceratops honestly isn't much bigger than a minifigure. And I really feel like we don't need all that many comparisons past this point, but for one final comparison to really drive this fact home, we have the feathered T-Rex, which you can very clearly see is massive next to our Furcatoceratops. So Collecta is absolutely nailing it this year with every single release that I have reviewed, with only one left now at this point, and I feel like they've definitely done that yet again with this Furcatoceratops. Overall, the sculpt is gorgeous, and it's a great species choice because, yet again, it's another ceratopsian I did not have in my collection. And with so many ceratopsians now out on the market, it's not every day I get to add a new species to my collection. So really excited to have this one here. But again, sculpt-wise, it is gorgeous. The fine detail is gorgeous. It really pops, and considering its size, it's impressive how nicely it pops. It's very vibrant detail throughout, and it has every ounce of detail you would expect or want to see on a figure like this. As always, the Collecta models are always super impressive when it comes to the fine detail and how much they can cram into their figures. The overall paint apps, I think, are great on this one as well. Yet again, very impressive considering its size. It actually has a lot of variation of color to it, but it looks very natural overall, and definitely not anything that's too flashy by any means. And the transitions are pretty smooth. There's, like I said, quite a bit of different shades of greens and browns and stuff throughout, just giving it a very lifelike look, as well as that dark wash helping to amp up all of the detail quite nicely as a whole. The pose is pretty cool, obviously showing the dinosaur moving at kind of an impressive speed, as it looks like it's maybe jogging or even about to run. Not quite what I would say would be galloping, but definitely moving at a pretty decent rate of speed in my opinion, and I think that looks nice and is also reflected nicely in the sculpt overall. So without a doubt, a figure worth picking up and adding to your collection, and considering it's fairly small, it's not one that you really have to worry about taking up a whole lot of room. So if you are interested, of course, grab it once it comes into stock on everything Dinosaur, Happy Hen Toys, the Jenkins Mini Zoo, wherever it is you buy your Collecta figures. Just like with all of the others, this one isn't quite released yet, but it will be coming very soon. So once it is released, definitely pick it up. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.